Greetings, fellow Sierra Leoneans. My name is Chernor Alphaba, and me is the editor-in-chief of the African Express. Today, we now produce the 13th episode. This is episode number 13 of the ongoing series on the political and economic crisis in Sierra Leone. Last week, we begin to talk about what we call corporate gangsters and electricity corruption in Sierra Leone. We lay out the history of the Western Area Power Generation Project. We talk about how the privatization of electricity supply lead to increased corruption. Corruption were facilitated by foreign governments. In this case, we're talking about the British government in the days of Ernest Bai Koroma and the APC, and now a corruption financed and supported by the United States government through the Development Finance Corporation. We talk, say, by 2011, when the APC dismantled the National Power Authority and privatized the supply of electricity and create EDSA and EGTC, then decide form a fictitious company we then call Blue Flare, rogue company we then call Blue Flare Sierra Leone Limited. In the last episode, we talk about the incorporation of Blue Flare in Sierra Leone and the British Virgin Islands and also in the UK. In fact, in front of me right now the certificate of incorporation of Blue Flare in the UK. And we just as we mentioned last week, the company registration number for Blue Flare at the time was 7623894, where Blue Flare Power Sierra Leone Limited was incorporated under the Companies Act 2006 as a private company limited by shares and registered in England and Wales on the 5th of May 2011. This is the company where a group of Lebanese and lawyers in the UK constitute and register them again as Sierra Leone and in the British Virgin Islands for take over the privatization of electricity supply in the days of the APC. We therefore talk about Blue Flare and history as we go along, how it connected to the Koroma family, how Ernest Bai Koroma and his brothers and his family tied to this company, and the corruption linked to Blue Flare and the privatization of electricity supply beginning 2011 with the dismantling of NPA and the creation of EDSA and EGTC. In the last episode, we don't begin to lay out that history there. But today, before we continue that discussion, we want to just put into perspective the response of the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. Development Finance Corporation to the ongoing conversation. Since we begin to talk about electricity supply and the corruption associated with electricity supply and how British companies and American companies have been using the privatization of electricity supply for enrich foreign companies and the local politicians of the APC and the SLPP, there is also an ongoing effort by these companies, these foreign companies, and the local diplomats in Sierra Leone, in this case, the United States Embassy and the British, for confused Sierra Leoneans. So we want to clarify this misinformation because it's our duty as Sierra Leoneans for defend the human rights of we people, for put into proper perspective these developments and also educate we people them properly about where their interest is and how these foreign corporations and now, by extension, the local diplomats who are stationed in Sierra Leone are not only meddling into the politics of Sierra Leone, but are also helping foreign corporations for exploit with people. So, as part of this conversation and the ongoing effort for confuse the people, on the 27th of July, 2021, we've been get a statement by the U.S. Development Finance Corporation. And in that same statement, where the U.S. Development Finance Corporation issue, they announced $270 million debt. They say now for provide money for electricity in Sierra Leone. In fact, Another press release even talk about the visit to Freetown of the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, Scott Nathan. We got to talk about that. But whether the most important and most interesting part of this development, now the recent announcement on the 8th of May, that is this past Wednesday, we podcast on this. We begin to talk about the history of this corruption, beginning with Ernest Bai Koroma, the formation of Blue Flare, and how Blue Flare later turned into the Copper Belt Energy Corporation Limited, or sell the contract to the Copper Belt Energy Corporation and the British Commonwealth Development Corporation during the days of Ernest Bai Koroma. What happened? As we start the conversation, now the Americans and say, okay, we'll issue statement. One time on a pretend say, we'll try for do good. So, in a way, this is what we call a big blessing to Sierra Leone, because by beginning to expose this age-old corruption, the privatization of electricity supply, how that don't generate a funnel for these foreign companies for loot Sierra Leone, we don't begin get confession. And today, we want for talk say the statement, the press release issued by the U.S. Development Finance Corporation, which is posted not just on the DFC website, but also on USAID, which is the official website of the U.S. government. And so we go read what in the press release from the DFC say. This was issued on the 8th of May, 2024, few days ago. This now few days, 2 or 3 days after we last podcast, in which we start to lay out the history of the Western Area Power Generation Project, the role of corporate gangsters and the local politicians of the APC and the SLPP for use the privatization of electricity for exploit the people of Sierra Leone, put debt in the country head, where the money is nowhere to be seen in the country, the service has not been provided, and the country continuously accumulate debt. So what did the U.S. government say after that podcast? They issued a press release in which they said the United States International Development Finance Corporation's DFC's Deputy Executive Officer, Nisha Biswal, and the government of Sierra Leone, in this case represented by this illegal cabinet, they say they don't announce, say, they have today announced up to $412 million in financing and political risk insurance in support of the country's plans to address rolling blackouts and expand its power system through renewable energy solutions in the future. DFC approved a new loan. Remember our loan, DFC approved a new loan of up to $292 million to the Freetown-based Western Area Power Generation Project to help develop and upgrade the power plant's infrastructure, promoting reliable access to power throughout Sierra Leone. DFC will also provide up to $120 million in political risk insurance to crowd in private investment. The financing package is boosted by a $40 million loan from ECOWAS Bank for International Development. So what did I say now? Then quote Nisha Biswal in this statement, in which he say Sierra Leone's vision for a sustainable energy future is becoming a reality. DFC is proud to support the country's first large utility-scale independent power project and lay the foundation for reliable and affordable electricity in Sierra Leone. They did not stop there. The statement also go ahead for talk say the sponsors of this project are Milile Energy and TCQ Power, who are developing the project, the first utility-scale independent power project in Sierra Leone. And then quote, for we purposes, the U.S. ambassador, the current U.S. ambassador to Sierra Leone, Brian David Hunt, is quoted here as saying, quote, the Western Area Power Generation Project is poised to revolutionize Sierra Leone's energy landscape, bringing opportunity to communities across the nation. Its impact will be profound, fueling progress, prosperity, and a brighter future for all Sierra Leoneans. The United States is proud to support this private sector initiative. Then go ahead now for quote, the Milile Energy themselves say the unwavering commitment shown by DFC to ensure that this transformational project is realized will improve the lives of millions of Sierra Leoneans. And this then quoted Milile Energy then CEO Eric Greenskog. He not only stopped there, then quote with most famous major character of this transnational corruption story, Karim Nasser, the CEO, now CEO of TCQ Power. Karim Nasser say, "We are immensely grateful for this support from DFC and EBID that enables this next stage of development. It demonstrates their belief in and commitment to the people of Sierra Leone," said TCQ Power Limited CEO Karim Nasser. In any serious situation, Karim Nasser should be in detention right now, because Karim Nasser is not just new in here. Karim Nasser has been featuring from the day of Blue Flare, when the APC privatized, when the APC dismantled the NPA, the National Power Authority of Sierra Leone, and privatized the supply of electricity. They did not even put a proper bidding. Instead, they take the contract and gave it to Blue Flare Power Limited. That was on the 5th of May, 2011. We will not talk about the front, the use of Lebanon as a front for this. But the interesting thing is that Karim Nasser, after the Blue Flare transformed itself into the Copper Belt Energy Corporation, Karim Nasser signed. There are documents here in which Karim Nasser signed in the days of the APC, signed on behalf of the Copper Belt Energy Corporation Africa. Imagine. First, when this project was set up, it was a joint project sponsored by the Copper Belt Energy Corporation, CEC Africa, operating out of Zambia and registered in Mauritius, and then the British Virgin Islands and all that. We don't talk about that in the past. But here, as I said, this was during the days of Anesbai Kuroma. We see now executed as a deed on behalf of CECA Africa, Sierra Leone Limited, Karim Nasser, signing with the laws of Mauritius in the presence of Lucy Johnson. Then the same Karim Nasser here, signing on behalf of CEC Africa. And signing, we get Karim Nasser here signing as a director of CEC Africa, the same